John, can you just give me 2 seconds? Because my cat is at the door screaming.
Okay, sure.
And people are going to think I'm cruel otherwise.
Okay.
Weddings.
Oh, weddings. This is a good topic because I mean everybody wants to hear about it, and but you know what? Before we get to it, I just want to make an announcement that Debbie caught up on the show and she's current, and I let her know that we were off by a week with the new episodes. So, I just want to make sure. I was worried when she got behind that maybe, perhaps. We were losing our edge. We were not quite as entertaining as we once were, and I feel like we've been redeemed because she's back caught up, and so this is a very special episode going out to my sister-in-law.
Well, there we go.
Tell me about your wedding. Everybody knows you're getting married, and at some point in the future, and I can only imagine what it's been a very long time since I went through the process, but it was a hassle then, and I'm sure it's just as big a hassle now.
Well, I mean, to that, though, we were discussing last night, how on earth did people do this without the internet? Because...
This is true. I don't think I use the internet at all on mine.
I don't know how I would even do it, but it's just so stressful. There are so many moving parts. There's all these weird, like, oh, well, this is tradition, and you should do this, and you should do that. And I think, well, do you know what? I'm not going to do this thing that all these websites tell me to do.
Right.
And oh my god, wedding websites, like that's a whole market that I hadn't even considered existed. Some of these are huge websites, and they're probably making a fortune, but I just never considered that they even existed.
Well, anytime you have people who have a pile of money that they need to spend on a thing that's going to happen no matter what, right? It just brings them out. I mean, you've got I think weddings, the assumption is you have money to burn and you're going to burn it. So why don't you burn it on me instead of somebody else?
Oh yeah, for sure. And whatever that amount of money you've got, there's a product for a wedding that will cost that amount of money.
Sure.
Yeah, it's fine. It's getting there. We've booked some things. It's kind of moving forward. But the last couple of weeks, it's like been the only thing that we can think about and talk about because we're like, we need to organise this and we need to organise that, and like there's all these sort of moving parts that need to work together.
It's a major production. I mean, it's a whole project, right? I mean, it's like your second job now.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I'd need a second job to pay for it.
That's probably true. You'll end up working down at the Tesco, handing out those 5p bags.
They don't have the 5p bags anymore. I don't think I told you this.
Oh, you didn't tell me this. You've been holding out on me. It's been a long time since I brought up my favorite topic.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, they don't have 5p bags anymore. They have 10p ones.
Oh,
are they nicer? They have some slightly more expensive ones. Yeah, they're nicer.
They got good handles.
They don't have to donate any of that money to charity, which is why they're actually doing it.
I see. All right. I got a very good quality Tesco bag when I was in London over the summer, and then I think I actually had an opportunity to go to a Tesco while I was in Dublin too. I don't know. I'm trying to think whether it was much of a different experience going to one in Ireland, but it was roughly the same. It's about what you'd expect.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a Tesco in either Spain or France. Basically the same. It's just impossible to tell the difference. So I can't imagine that Ireland would be that much different.
I find that this self-checkout process at Tesco a little bit stressful. I've got to admit. It's just a little, I don't know. They don't have many people working at those things. It might as well be an Amazon Go, except for one very disgruntled employee usually sitting somewhere to deal with the people who don't know what they're doing, which was kind of me.
Well, those tills are a little bit sensitive as well. All of the supermarkets in the UK use the same system, and the same tills, although they're all white labelled and branded, so you think that it's like a special checkout just for that supermarket, but it's definitely not. But yeah, they can get a bit weird at times.
Yeah, I know, but I've got it down. It's not like we don't have those things in America. I mean, we don't have that fancy peanut butter here. But I saw you're buying like, what are you buying? I mean, I looked at this, I was like, is this Vegemite? And then I was like, oh, this is peanut butter.
Yeah, this is Marmite flavored peanut butter. Do you have Marmite? Have you ever had Marmite?
No, is that like Vegemite? Probably not.
Well, I've never had Vegemite, so
That's an
I don't
Australian
know if the two
thing.
things
Well,
are the
we
same.
should ask Jeremy Burge about that. But all right, wait, it's Marmite flavored peanut butter?
Yeah, so it's peanut butter with a sort of flavor of Marmite. So it's not like, I wouldn't want to make this myself by mixing the two together. I think it's just got sort of the flavors from Marmite in the peanut butter. Now, I came home from work this evening to try it because Alex at work, we'd all been, there's 4 or 5 of us who'd been wanting it for a while because it came out a few weeks ago.
Oh, so it's kind of
Alex
a new
managed
thing?
to find it at the weekend and had to buy 5 jars in the supermarket.
To take to all your coworkers?
Yeah. Yeah, he messaged us and he was like, I found it, and like by the time we'd all finished, he had to buy 5 jars.
Oh.
So he looked like the weirdo buying this much peanut butter.
I bet so. So it's a new thing then, is it?
Yeah, so it came out 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think, and it started online for like 1 or 2 supermarkets, and now it's sort of slowly started to show up in the stores. But we couldn't order it online because they had like a minimum spend of £40, and we didn't need to buy that much Marmite peanut butter.
All right, well, explain to me what Marmite is, if you can.
Oh God, I don't think I could. It's
we don't have that here, as far as I'm aware. I mean, maybe in some specialty store.
Yeah, you're probably going to find that in the like the where they have like all the English chocolate bars in that really expensive section in the American supermarkets.
Yep,
it will very likely be there.
All right.
I have seen it when I've been in the US.
Well, that's interesting.
I'm not sure how to describe it, but you have it on toast or crumpets. I mean, not your crumpets. I've had American crumpets. That's not crumpets.
Okay. I think we're turning into another show that was just recently started, and you were very upset about some sort of biscuit versus cookie debate that went on.
Yeah, what's the show even called?
It's called Pants in Your Boot, maybe?
Yeah, Pants in the Boot, I think. Yeah, this is
so.
a new incomparable show. We'll put a link in the show notes, but it was pretty fun to listen to. I think they're sort of recording a bunch of short episodes all at the same time, so there'll hopefully be a few more out soon. But yeah, they're sort of discussing the difference between British things and American things. And yeah, the first episode was about cookies and biscuits, and a British person said that hobnobs weren't biscuits, which is just outrageous.
Oh, I can't believe it. That's like an insult to the entire country.
I couldn't believe this was even a thing. But other than that, the show was very good.
Maybe there'll be another controversy about crisps around the corner.
Oh, that's almost definitely coming.
I can imagine. All right. Well, so you got your peanut butter, and you took it home, and have you had it yet?
Yes, I came home and had a slice of toast with Marmite peanut butter just to try it, and it's nice. I'm not sure I'd want a lot of it.
Yeah,
because it's kind of quite salty. Because between the peanut butter and the Marmite, it's become quite, makes it a lot more salty than standard peanut butter, but it's still pretty nice.
All right. I may have to go look for this sometime. We have a new giant grocery store. That's probably the biggest grocery store I've ever been to in our area. It's almost like the size of like a Walmart or some really giant store like that in the U.S. And part of the thing is that they have a lot of international food, because they're kind of positioned in a place in Chicago that's an town that's at an intersection between a lot of people who have immigrated from Eastern Europe and from China and a bunch of other countries. And so they have row after row of, they have like the India aisle and the China aisle, and then they'll have the Poland aisle, and there's on and on and on. Or they've got they've got a whole Russian section. So it's very interesting to see what's in there, and it's on top of that, it's all the kind of stuff you'd normally expect in a U.S. grocery store. But it's I don't recall if they have a British aisle. I don't think that where I live is a hotbed of UK immigrants, but I could
just a bunch of people wandering around looking for crunchies,
yeah,
like dairy milk.
I could be wrong. It's pretty easy to find dairy milk here, but crunchies are just about impossible. Crunchies and flakes and twirls, those are all really hard to find, and those are like 3 of my favorites.
Yeah, those are all. I think I kind of forget how good they are. But then if I come to America and I go to look for chocolate or something like that, I think I don't want any of this. I need to go to the international section.
It's all
one
waxy and has no flavor, and unless you're getting like some really high end specialty chocolate from some small company, if you just go out and get like a Hershey's bar or something, it doesn't really, you can't really stand it up next to anything by Cadbury, especially if the Cadbury is coming from the UK.
Yeah, definitely not.
Did you see that the Edge browser, people found the download for the Edge browser, and then Guy Rambo had a screenshot of Activity Monitor for the beta of the browser, and it was just like dozens of processes running at the same time, eating up all sorts of memory. It's a complete mess. And I sent it to Federico and Ryan. It's like, don't touch this. give it a little while to bake in the oven.
Well, the thing is, it is Chrome.
It is.
Not even. It's not just Chromium. Like, you can go to the Chrome URLs to get to like settings and stuff, and it just replaces it with Edge.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah,
and all Chrome extensions work with it and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, yesterday they teased with a really short GIF the Mac version, and I guess based on this discovered download link, which wasn't supposed to be public, it has touch bar support for media playback and stuff like that, but still don't know much about it on the Mac.
Yeah, I downloaded it and tried it, but to be honest, I couldn't tell the difference between that and Chrome, so I just closed it and moved on with my day.
It wasn't causing problems in terms of memory usage or anything, because what I saw from Rambo looked pretty bad, but I didn't bother to do it myself.
Well, to be fair, I use Chrome all day anyway, so, I'm not going to notice any memory use from another browser.
So you already have browser Stockholm syndrome. You're already used to your machine coming to a grinding halt from using Chrome.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
So that was just like, it's just another tab as far as my computer was concerned.
Today I just wrote about on Mac Stories that Jeff Johnson did this little app that's free that you can download on GitHub, and it stops Apple News URLs from opening up in the News app and sends you to Safari instead. Because what it does is it resolves it takes over the URL scheme from Apple News, resolves the original URL, and then in the background, and then it opens up Safari to that page. It's kind of nice if that bothers you. I mean, the News app doesn't really bother me personally that much, but if you're already working in Safari, I can see how you'd want to stay in Safari and not have multiple apps opening up.
Yeah, well, I think I have a filter on Tweetbot that filters out any Apple News links.
Really? So
because if I click them on iOS, it says, you need to install the News app.
How do you not
on the Mac? It seems to be okay, so I just don't bother.
How do you not have the News app installed? Don't you have to affirmatively delete that?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
But I don't know. I don't really use it. I don't really get any use out of it, so I kind of deleted it, and then I just got annoyed by the fact that they won't just redirect to the original URL.
Yeah, it's far worse actually on the Mac, because at least on iOS there are extensions and share extensions to do things like send an article to reading list, which is part of Safari, but you don't have that on the Mac. I mean, there are things missing from the app on the Mac because it's early marzipan and all that, but yeah, I'm okay with it. I actually, it was terrible when it first came out, I thought, and over time, Graham Spencer, who used to work with us at Mac Stories, kind of convinced me that it was worth taking another look. And I like the app a lot now. What I use it for is, like, my RSS is huge and has tons and tons of of feeds in it that I follow, but those are like strictly for work stuff, and anything that I'm just kind of more interested in on a personal level, for the most part, not entirely, but for the most part, I just follow it in Apple News now, whether it's video games or music or just general news. I use Apple News for a lot of that now.
Yeah, I keep trying Apple News, and every time I open it up, I see...
Well, you see a lot of American news is what you see, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, he who must not be named is always on there somewhere.
Right. Well, that's probably going to be
but
true, even if you open up the Guardian, though, right, or the Daily.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But I think one of the things that Apple News in the UK tries to do is they go, "Oh, we're the UK. We should bring in all these UK newspapers," which in theory makes sense. In practice, a lot of the UK quote unquote newspapers are just gossip magazines,
Right?
The Daily Mail, the Mirror, the Sun.
Yeah.
And no matter how many times I say I'm not interested in them, they still keep turning up every now and again.
Was it? It was the Daily Mail that had the story about the guy who swallowed the AirPod, right? I think it was.
Yeah, I think it might have been actually, which maybe just means it's complete crap.
Right. It could be.
To excuse the turn of phrase.
No, I'm pretty. I'm pretty sure it is, because the story that I read, I think, may have been written by Benjamin Mayo at 9 to 5, and he basically had a disclaimer in his story that said it is from the Daily Mail, so who knows if it's really true.
Well, yeah, I mean that is always a problem. Again, that's one of those URLs that if somebody tweets a link to that, I'm not going to look at it, because either it's not going to be true, or it's going to be deliberately written in such a way to just make me angry.
Yeah, no, I get that. The other thing that's interesting about Apple News is you can kind of get a sense for, because it tries to suggest sections for you that it thinks you're interested in, it gives you some insight into what you might be spending too much time reading, and then you can say, no, I don't want to see that, and then you can just filter it out, because it was suggesting to me for a while that I follow an entire section on Brexit. I'm like, well, I'm kind of interested in Brexit. I mean, I have friends who live in the UK, and I'd like to kind of know what's going on, but I don't want a whole section on Brexit.
Yeah, I mean, I live here, and even I have more of a theoretical interest in Brexit than a sort of active urge to read every single story about it.
Right. It would drive you mad if you're not careful. Apple News, the whole News Plus thing, has gotten a little weird lately too. It's really interesting. Right as the 30-day free trial started expiring, all sorts of weird stuff happened. There were subscriptions that just disappeared. There was one morning where if you went into Apple News Plus, probably about 2/3 of the magazines were just gone, just not there. They came back, and there seems to be a lot of back-end stuff going on, because I think they switched the I'm going to forget the terminology now, but originally you would subscribe to magazines, so you would follow them, and I think they switched the terminology to something like follow or whatever. I don't remember what it is, but they've been monkeying around with it, and there's been a lot of, like, share extensions stopped working at some point, and then they came back, and I don't know. I'm torn on that one, because on the one hand, I don't really have time to read more than I already read, but it is a pretty good deal if you would otherwise find yourself maybe thinking about subscribing to, say, the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or any of these magazines like, the New Yorker or Atlantic, or I don't know, whatever they are. It is kind of nice to have. And there's some really good gaming magazines on there, like Retro Gamer and The Edge. Those are both on there.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and
I mean, of course, all of this comes with the asterisk that it's not available in the UK or, most other countries right now.
I know, that is a problem. That's a huge problem. But hopefully that'll roll out more broadly. I mean, that's always been a frustration of mine. At least things like when we are dealing with thinking about linking something in the Wall Street Journal, for instance, I'm always hesitant to do it, because who are Mac Stories readers? What percentage of those people actually can get past the paywall? And you can try to get past it through Google, like searching the name of the title and all that stuff, but that doesn't work as well as it used to in my experience. But I do, like, even if we don't link to it, I like to have access to that stuff just for my own knowledge, for work related reasons, and $10 a month is a lot better deal than just actually subscribing to the Wall Street Journal. Even though their subscription on Apple News is a little limited, it has some weird quirks to it, but you can get around this pretty well. I mean, there are lots of ways to get around all these things, whether you're using Pocket or Instapaper, or you're opening up the New York Times in Safari View Controller versus Safari versus Chrome. I mean, you can get around the paywalls pretty easily if you want to. for the most part. But I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it just depends how much effort you're willing to put in
Exactly.
to read one story that maybe somebody shared or something like that.
Right. Well, that's why you use an app like Opener, because it can be set up to open up your links in various different places, and you can. I shouldn't give away all the trade secrets to how to open up. Once you reach your limit on the New York Times, there's plenty of ways to get past your limit. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, as an aside, like Opener is a really good app. It's so useful.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, one of the tricks that I forget what it is. I think I'm gonna forget what it is, but Federico taught me this trick where you can set it up so that if you get a Twitter link, you can automatically open things in the Twitter client, which is really handy if what you want to do is access aspects of Twitter that aren't available in third-party apps. So you may be reading, Twitter in Tweetbot or Twitterific, and you want to go and I don't know see a poll or look at the statistics for a particular tweet or something. It's using something like an Opener. You can shoot out to the official client very easily and use those features, even if for the most part you stay on a third party client. Although I'm starting to wonder whether I might actually start using the official client. The advantage of the third party apps is pretty limited now.
Yeah, I mean, was it Unconnected? They were mentioning this.
They were
this week, but I do still think it. And then on the one hand, like you, I'm like, oh, maybe I should just move to it because it's going to happen eventually. And on the other hand, I'm like, no, you can take Tweetbot out of my cold dead hands. I'm going to keep using it as long as I possibly can.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, but I look and I see things like, I think yesterday Twitter announced that now with quote tweets, you can include media with them. I was like, well, I've been doing that forever on Tweetbot. Is that a new thing on Twitter?
Right. Yeah, I couldn't really understand what was happening for a while.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it's there. The other thing I noticed this morning is Twitter announced that. Do you remember when they basically knocked a bunch of people off of Twitter because they lied about their age when they got on the service?
Yep. I remember that.
I think that was at least a year ago, if not more, maybe 2 years. They announced today that they're working with those people and contacting them to get them back on the service. I was like, really? It took you this long to deal with this? You didn't think about this up front? It's kind of amazing to me. It's really funny. One of the workflow guys, the original workflow guys, disappeared off Twitter, and that's why. Because when he joined, I think he was like 13, and he lied about his age, and they figured it out. I forget how they figured that stuff out, but in any event, they shut down his account. But he got it back. I guess he had the connections.
Yeah, it's so strange. I mean, obviously, there's clearly some internal mechanism that has led to that point. But from the outside looking at it, like, what are you doing? Like, if the person is now old enough, like, who cares? Let's just, move on.
Right. But, well, that's the problem is, it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. They lied about their age, and they weren't the right age when they signed up. But, your service has been around for a decade, and now you're going to knock all these people off who signed up when they were, 15 years old, and now they're 22 or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, I actually have this problem on PayPal. I have a bank account that I can't add. Because I think I signed up for PayPal when I was like 16 or 17.
This happened to my son.
Through some weird series of events. Like, I still have my account and it's still functional. But there's one account that I can't add. Because for some reason, that account is flagged as an account that shouldn't be allowed because I was underage at the time. I don't know what was going on.
Well, he may get stuck with this. This is why now his YouTuber gamer editing video business is now being paid to me instead of to him because he couldn't get a PayPal because he's only 15.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, to be honest, most of the stuff I signed up for at 15 is dead now. MySpace,
right?
Face Party, which nobody seems to have heard of, but it definitely existed.
All your sick beats were lost a few months ago when they had that whole thing when they moved to a new server and lost all the music for like a decade or something.
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, I saw somebody had like pulled an archive of a bunch of them. It was like 80, 90 gigabyte of music or something.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it's like a researcher has generously donated. It's like, so there's some group out there that was scraping MySpace for all the music. It raised my eyebrow. I was wondering how legit that was, but who knows? They did, and I think it's on the Internet Archive now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. Like, as much as it's kind of funny because it's MySpace and they're kind of just the butt of the joke at this point. But there was a lot of bands that started on MySpace that, presumably didn't get big. I mean, Arctic Monkeys got big sort of through MySpace.
Yeah.
But there must be hundreds of bands that, didn't make it really big who would have all their demos and tracks on there and stuff. So, no matter what it is, it's always a shame if you lose a big chunk of the internet like that, but what are you going to do? It's MySpace.
The seniors are probably on there too. You're familiar with the band, aren't you?
Oh, I'm very familiar with the seniors. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I have them saved in Spotify.
I think I have them somewhere on a drive somewhere, and I don't even know. It's that's Federico's old band for those people on listening who don't know.
Cool. So, I don't know. Should we save a few of these bits for next time, maybe?
Yeah, we can. What do you want to... Is there anything else you want to cover today?
I don't think so, unless there's something you wanted to talk about. You've got these, Zip Zap speakers?
I have some I have some speakers from a company called Libertone. I have to look at this. You're gonna have to edit this out. I'm sorry. I almost called them. Yeah, from Libertone. Libertone makes Zip speakers, and they're the only wireless AirPlay 2 speakers, and I'm testing them out, and they're pretty good. They're not great, but they're not bad either. So I'll have a review on Mac Stories at some point. In the meantime, no, I'll talk about them more once I fully have tested them out. I've only had them for a few days and only tried them in a few environments. I want to give them a better chance outside, except it rains here constantly, which has not been very useful for testing outside. But yeah, I'll have them eventually.
Yeah, it's interesting with the, just as an aside, but the AirPlay thing, like AirPlay never seemed to sort of, don't get me wrong, like people use it and it exists in a bunch of different products, but it didn't infiltrate the market as I think I imagined it would when they first announced it. I was expecting little AirPlay dongles that would be like $10, $20 or something like that, and that just hasn't happened at all. I assume because of licensing with Apple, but
that's exactly.
It's interesting to see this stuff trickle out.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is I doubt that that you can do it for that cheap, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, have they open sourced FaceTime yet? No.
Oh yeah. Ooh, ouch. That's old catalog. Yeah, no, I'm still waiting for that to happen myself. I mean, who knows? No, that's never.
I'll keep refreshing GitHub until it shows up.
All right.
Cool. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good.